Thomas and friends, making tracks to great destinations.
Dear Christopher, here is your friend Thomas the Tank Engine. He wanted to come out of his station yard and see the world. These stories tell you how he did it. I hope you will like them, because you helped me to make them. Your loving Daddy.
The island of Sodor is surrounded by beautiful blue sea. It has fields of green and sandy yellow beaches. There are rivers, streams, and lots of trees where the birds sing. There are windmills and a coal mine, and docks where visitors to the island arrive. The island also has lots and lots of railway lines. Who's that puffing down the track? It's Thomas! Hello, Thomas! Hello, everybody! Welcome to the island of Sodor.
Thomas the Tank Engine wouldn't stop being a nuisance. Night after night, he kept the other engines awake. I'm tired of pushing coaches. I want to see the world. The other engines didn't take much notice, for Thomas was a little engine with a long tongue. But one night, Edward came to the shed. He was a kind little engine and felt sorry for Thomas. I've got some freight cars to take home tomorrow. If you take them instead of me, I'll push coaches in the yard. Thank you, said Thomas. That will be nice. Next morning, Edward and Thomas asked their drivers, and when they said yes, Thomas ran off happily to find freight cars. Now, the freight cars are silly and noisy. They talk a lot and don't attend to what they are doing. And I'm sorry to say they play tricks on an engine who is not used to them. Edward knew all about the freight cars. He warned Thomas to be careful, but Thomas was too excited to listen. The shunter fastened the coupling, and when the signal dropped, Thomas was ready. The conductor blew his whistle. Beep, beep, answered Thomas, and started off. But the freight cars weren't ready. Oh, oh, they screamed. Wait, Thomas, wait. But Thomas wouldn't wait. Come on, he puffed. All right, don't fuss. All right, don't fuss, grumbled the cars. Thomas began going faster and faster. Whoosh! He whistled as he rushed through Henry's tunnel. Hurry, hurry, called Thomas. He was feeling very proud of himself. But the cars grew crosser and crosser. At last, Thomas slowed down as he came to Gordon's Hill. Steady now, steady, warned the driver as they reached the top. He began to put on the brakes. We're stopping, called Thomas. No, 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 answered the cars, bumping into each other. Go on, go on. Before the driver could stop them, they had pushed Thomas down the hill and were rattling and laughing behind him. Poor Thomas tried hard to stop them from making him go too fast. Stop pushing, he hissed. But the cars took no notice. Go on, they giggled in their silly way. There's the station. Oh dear, what shall I do? Cried Thomas. They rattled straight through and swerved into the goods yard. Thomas shut his eyes. I must stop. When he opened his eyes, he saw he had stopped just in front of the buffers. There, watching him, was Sir Topham Hatt. What are you doing here, Thomas? He asked. I've brought Edward's freight cars, Thomas answered. Why did you come so fast? I didn't mean to. I was pushed, said Thomas. You've got a lot to learn about freight cars, Thomas. After pushing them about here for a few weeks, you'll know almost as much about them as Edward. Then you'll be a really useful engine.
Thomas's whistle is broken. Which new whistle should Thomas choose? That doesn't sound like an engine whistle. Try another whistle, Thomas. Does that sound like an engine whistle? Let's listen again. That doesn't sound like an engine whistle either. There's one more whistle left. I wonder what this one sounds like. That sounds like a very good engine whistle. Well done, Thomas.
Sometimes impatience can lead to carelessness.
Henry and Gordon were lonely when Thomas left the yard to run his branch line. They missed him very much. They had more work to do and had to fetch their own coaches. The big engines thought they were too important to fetch coaches. James grumbled too. "We get no rest, we get no rest," they all complained. But the coaches only laughed. "You're lazy and slack, you're lazy and slack," they answered. Altogether, the engines were causing Sir Topham Hatt a great deal of trouble. The big stations at both ends of the line each have a turntable. Sir Topham Hatt had made them so that the tender engines can be turned round, because it is dangerous for them to go fast backwards. Little tank engines like Thomas don't need turntables. They can go just as well backwards as forwards. But to hear Gordon talk, you would have thought that Sir Topham Hatt had given him a tender just to show how important he was. "You don't understand, little Thomas. We tender engines have a position to keep up. It doesn't matter where you go, but we are important. And for Sir Topham Hatt to make us do shunting, fetch coaches, and go on some of those dirty sidings, it's not the proper thing." Thomas chuckled and went off with Annie and Clarabelle. "Disgraceful," Gordon hissed as he ran backwards to the turntable. The turntable was in a windy place close to the sea, and if he was not on it just right, he put it out of balance and made it difficult to turn. Today, Gordon was in a bad temper, and the wind was blowing fiercely. His driver tried to make him stop in the right place, but Gordon wasn't trying. The fireman tried to turn the handle, but Gordon's weight and the strong wind prevented him. "It's no good," they said at last. "Your big tender upsets the balance. If you were a little tank engine, you'd be all right. Now you'll have to pull the next train backwards." "Look," called some boys. "There's a new tank engine." "Oh, it's only Gordon back to front." "Hello," called Thomas. "Playing tank engines? Sensible engine. Take my advice. Scrap your tender and have a nice bunker." Gordon said nothing. Even James laughed when he saw him. "Take care," hissed Gordon. "You might stick too." "No fear," chuckled James. "I'm not so fat as you." "I mustn't stick," thought James. He stopped on just the right place to balance the table. It could now swing easily. Gordon arrived in time to see everything. James turned much too easily. The wind puffed him round like a top. He couldn't stop. "Well, well," said Gordon. "Are you playing roundabouts?" Poor James, feeling quite giddy, rolled off to the shed without a word. That night, the three engines had an indignation meeting. "It's shameful to treat tender engines like this. Gordon has to go backwards, and people think he's a tank engine. James spins round like a top, and everyone laughs at us. And to add to that, Sir Topham Hatt makes us all shunt in dirty sidings. Ugh!" "Listen," said Gordon. He whispered something to the others. "We'll do it tomorrow. Sir Topham Hatt will look silly." The engines had decided to go on strike.
Percy is ready to leave the station. He's busting his buffers with excitement. What's Percy pulling today? Percy pulls out of the station pulling passengers. Percy pulls out of the station pulling passengers and pineapples. Now Percy pulls out of the station pulling passengers, pineapples, and a piano. Can you remember what Percy is pulling? Percy pulls out of the station pulling passengers, pineapples, and a piano. I wonder what's next. Percy pulls out of the station pulling passengers, pineapples, a piano, and presents. Can you still remember all the things Percy was pulling? Let's see. Percy pulls out of the station pulling passengers, pineapples, a piano, and presents. Can you guess where Percy is going? Percy is puffing his way to a party. Each engine on the island of Sodor looks different. Can you tell who is who? This engine is green. It has large wheels. In fact, the whole engine looks very large. There's a coal tender at the back. Do you know who it is yet? Here's another clue. On the side is a big yellow number 3. Have you guessed? It's Henry. Hello, Henry. Now, who is next? This engine is a completely different shape. The wheels are covered. It has cow catchers on the front and on the back. And there are 2 small windows on each side. This engine is made of wood, and it has a big number 7 painted on the side. Who could it be? That's right, it's Toby. Hello, Toby. Now, do you know who this last engine is? This engine is smaller than Henry. It has flat water tanks on each side, painted in a beautiful bright blue, with bright red stripes. Can you guess who it is? There are wheel arches at the front, and a tall black funnel, and a big yellow number 1. Who is number 1 on Sir Topham Hatt's railway? It's Thomas. Hello, Thomas. Thomas, Toby, and Henry all look very different, but they're all really useful engines.
Skarloey and Rheneas work on the railway that weaves round lakes and along mountain sides. Their coaches are filled with visitors, and the engines are proud to run the line, come rain or shine. The engines will never let their passengers down, but they are old and they tire more easily. Their drivers understood this, and they spoke kindly to them. "There's more than enough work for both of you on this railway. The manager is sending 2 more engines to help us run the line." Skarloey and Rheneas were pleased with this news and promised to give the new engines a big welcome. When Sir Handel and Peter Sam arrived, they found they had much to learn. "What a small shed," grunted Sir Handel. "This won't do at all. We're much too good for this old shack." "I think it's nice," said Peter Sam. "Huh," replied Sir Handel. "What's that rubbish?" "Shh," said Peter Sam. "That's Skarloey. He's famous." And then he whispered to Skarloey, "I'm sorry, Skarloey. Sir Handel's upset now, but he's quite nice, really." Skarloey felt sorry for Peter Sam. "Now, Sir Handel," said the fireman, "I will get you ready for work." "I'm tired. Let Peter Sam go. He'd love it." "No, you're first." Sir Handel puffed away to fetch his coaches. He didn't like the look of them at all. "Whatever next?" "Those aren't coaches, they're cattle cars." "Woo!" screamed the coaches. What a horrid engine! It's not what I'm used to, clanked Sir Handel. He rolled to the platform just as Gordon arrived. Hello, who are you? I'm Gordon. Who are you? I'm Sir Handel. I've heard of you. You're an express engine. So am I, but I'm used to new coaches, not these cattle cars. Do you have new coaches? I see you do. We must have a chat. Sorry I can't stop. We must keep time, you know. Gordon was speechless. Clouds of steam filled the air as Sir Handel huffed and puffed along the line. He was still cross when they reached the top station. Sir Handel was hoping for a rest, but his driver thought otherwise. We'll leave the coaches now and fetch some cars from the quarry. Cars, snorted Sir Handel. Cars. I won't. So there. Sir Handel was about to cause a great deal of trouble. Told you, said Sir Handel. By the time workmen came to rescue him, Sir Handel was feeling rather silly. To make matters worse, there stood Sir Topham Hatt. His message to Sir Handel was brief and blunt. I shall talk to you later. Then he and the fireman left with Peter Sam. Sir Handel felt sillier still. Come on, said his driver. Let's get you back on the rails. When Sir Handel crawled home, he found Sir Topham Hatt waiting for him. You're a very naughty engine. I hope I can trust you to behave when you next come out of this shed. After hearing that, I'm sure Sir Handel will, aren't you?
Cheeky one. James. He's vain but lots of fun. Percy. Pulls a mail on time. Gordon. Thunders down the line. Emily. Really knows her stuff. Henry. Toots and huffs and puffs. Edward. Wants to help and share. Toby. Well, let's say he's square. They're 2, they're 4, they're 6, they're 8. Shunting trucks and hauling freight. Red and green and brown and blue. They're the really useful crew. All with different roles to play. Round in the sheds or far away. Down the hills and round the bends. Thomas and his friends. They're 2, they're 4, they're 6, they're 8. Shunting trucks and hauling freight. Red and green and brown and blue. They're the really useful crew. All with different roles to play. Round in the sheds or far away. Down the hills and round the bends. Thomas and his friends.
Watching is learning. Orajel Training Toothpaste and Arm & Hammer Spin Brush Kids Toothbrushes. Proud supporters of Healthy Smiles and Thomas & Friends on PBS.
Blah, 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 blah. PBS!